Hello and welcome or welcome back to Unwinding Minds. My name's Rosie and I'm a qualified counsellor who lives with chronic illness and focuses on chronic illness in my private practice. To mark Dysautonomia Awareness Month, we're going to talk about dysautonomia, an umbrella term which covers several different conditions that all affect the autonomic nervous system. Specifically, we're going to be talking about POTS in this one, because it's the only one that I have first-hand experience of. Before talking about my own experiences in illness, I want to describe to you what dysautonomia is if you don't know. I'll keep it brief because your time's valuable, but if you're new to the topic, I encourage you to go and research it further because it is pretty interesting stuff. The autonomic nervous system is a part of the body that controls functions like your heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, digestion and temperature regulation, without you even thinking about it. For people living with dysautonomia, these automatic processes don't always work as they're supposed to, which can make everyday activities like standing, eating a meal, walking, or even getting out of bed much more challenging than it would be for people who don't live with the condition. It's often oversimplified into an issue with heart rate, but this just isn't accurate. It affects multiple organ systems. For some people, it leads to syncope or loss of consciousness, and for others, it's pre-syncope, which is the feeling of being about to faint. This condition can be extremely frustrating, exhausting, and it's usually isolating. My journey with POTS has included all of the above, and I'm far from being the only person who struggles with these difficulties on a daily basis or regularly. Sorry, I'm having a bit of pre-syncope today, so I'm just going to slow down. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to talk about what just happened very briefly. I experience this almost every time I'm recording, but I always cut those segments out. If you go through my videos, you'll see jump cuts kind of everywhere because, funnily enough, communicating clearly is kind of important in a YouTube video, and not taking up too much of people's time is something I'm very conscious of, although my videos are extremely long. And also, it's just a very weird feeling to be sat in front of a camera and nearly passing out. It's a very weird feeling, and it's a very private experience, so it's not one I usually share with the world, but I think it's important that I do. At least from time to time, if for no other reason than to state that it's okay and that it's sometimes very difficult to keep going with what you're doing, but it is possible with the right support whilst bearing in mind your need for rest. I think there can be a lot of hopelessness with an illness that falls under the dysautonomia umbrella, especially if your symptoms are really severe. I'm very, very fortunate not to constantly have syncope. That is fainting. But I frequently get pre-syncope, which is very irritating. For somebody who's very cerebral, mind-oriented, I always kind of have been, it's very weird to have your brain go clear all the time, to experience brain fog or to experience just losing your train of thought. And it's because there's not enough blood going up to your brain. If this happens to you, it's because, well, I sometimes wonder how long it's been going on, because people have often thought of me as being quite ditzy. In retrospect, I'm wondering if some of it was just confusion because there wasn't enough blood in my brain. Terrifying thought. But thankfully, I have treatment, I have support. I'm going to get back to the main video now, and we'll continue talking about things as they were. But as an aside, if you need support, please reach out for support. Your needs and your health journey is a personal one, but your needs are very important. They remain important, even if you are struggling with your function. So let's get back to it. I don't usually focus on my personal experiences, on my illness in general on this channel, because I know that oversharing on the internet can sometimes create parasocial or even harmful relationships and affect counselling work negatively. But equally, I do know the value of feeling like someone really understands your struggles from lived experiences. I want to be very clear about something though. Everyone's journey with chronic illness is slightly different. My own perspective on this is just one of many, and I do not claim to speak for the disabled or chronically ill communities at large. My goal is simply to offer a unique perspective on living with a long-term illness, using my expertise in mental health to help support understanding. As I said before, POTS, or Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome, is often misunderstood. It's not a condition that affects only people who are unfit or couch potatoes. In fact, it can strike athletes and those who were once highly active. POTS changes how a person experiences even the simplest parts of daily life. Tasks that most people don't think twice about, like taking a shower, or standing up, or walking across a room, can leave someone with POTS absolutely exhausted, dizzy, or in need of rest. The quality of life for many people with POTS has been compared to that of patients with kidney failure on dialysis. I now know that I have to sit down in the shower, for example, and shower in cold water so that I don't pass out. That is, I'm sad to say, not unusual for people who are living with this condition. Yet despite the severity of dysautonomia, 60% of patients are told at some point that it's all in their heads, and it takes an average of nearly 6 years to receive proper diagnosis. 6 years. Unfortunately, in my role as a counsellor, I frequently talk to patients and clients who have experienced this lack of belief, and it's heartbreaking. On a personal level, I've had counsellors, family members and friends all be dismissive about my illness before, and it's so incredibly damaging to the person when this happens. It very nearly stopped me from continuing to pursue help. I fear I'm not the only one who has had to fight against the current of well-meaning yet uninformed people. There's still no FDA-approved treatment or cure for POTS. The medications used to manage it were all originally developed for other conditions, leaving patients and clinicians to navigate a very confusing and challenging landscape of trial and error. And in the meantime, patients are left with the challenging task of adapting their lives around their physical health and the changes they see there. Around 25% of those with POTS are so severely affected that they cannot work or attend school. That's a quarter of people who take the step to stop working, and I guarantee you that it would be much higher if the illness were taken as seriously as it should be and given the support it deserves. POTS is really disabling, and it deserves recognition, research and respect, not open dismissal. But the physical challenges are just one part of the story. POTS profoundly affects mental health and self-image. Many people who have dysautonomia learn to say, "I'm feeling fine," even when they're not, because explaining the constant symptoms feels exhausting or time-consuming. It can be heartbreaking to become unreliable and to cancel plans, to miss out with time with friends and family, or struggle to keep up at school or work, not because you don't want to do those things, but because your body simply won't let you. As someone who works in the mental health field as a counsellor, I think that sometimes people expect that I'll be above all of these challenges. But a year on from diagnosis, I can say with confidence that even with all of my training and my expertise, becoming disabled has been the most continually mentally challenging experience of my life. I'm in a unique position, and that's part of why I wanted to put this video together, to comment on the ways in which dysautonomia is life-changing. I am a person who never expected to need the support of mobility aids. I used to enjoy walking for hours at a time. Not all the time, of course, because I am someone who used to enjoy really relaxing. But to be honest with you, I very rarely used to be that kind of person who was totally still for very long. To go from being hyper-independent and productive to recognising that mobility aids were going to be a huge part of my life was a challenging mental transition, and it's one that many disabled people have gone through at some stage or another. It's easy to slip into comparing yourself to the people who are healthier around you, especially when you're on the younger side and it feels like you're left behind. I've watched my capacity to do things diminish and gone through a real grief process with it. It's tough to navigate those feelings, to know that your world has shrunk. You will likely grieve the person that you used to be and the person that you might have become. You might wonder if people think that you're lazy when you need to take a rest, or you might feel like a burden when you have to reach out for some more help. I don't know how easy it will be to convey to another person who hasn't experienced a chronic illness just how terrifying it is to suddenly be experiencing confusing and distressing symptoms that are initially unexplained by your doctor. It can leave you with a lingering sense of uncertainty about life in general, and with questions about your health overall. Many of the clients I speak with experience huge amounts of uncertainty in trying to figure out which of the symptoms they're struggling with require a doctor's visit. I myself have struggled with this also, because new symptoms can arise at any time, and that can make it very difficult to figure out whether you're experiencing a continuation of your illness or something brand new. I find it even more complex myself because I have several different conditions now. So good luck figuring out which one is causing which symptom. Something I want to come back to, because as per usual I've gone onto a bit of a tangent there, is the level of mental stress that illnesses can cause. It's hard to encapsulate this, but it's the reason I've begun to focus my counselling work predominantly on supporting people living with chronic health conditions and disabilities, because of my increased understanding of how insanely disruptive and difficult it is to live with one. Dysautonomia is life-altering, even the less severe forms. Through all of this, many people with dysautonomia lose track of how strong they are mentally, because living with an invisible illness like this requires a huge amount of fighting for survival. It's hard in the middle of that to see just how strong you are for just getting through each day. And I know that it's not a choice, that making your way through is just living life with what you have available to you. But it's important to keep one eye always on the strength that you do hold. Fighting invisible battles to keep moving, standing up, adapting, showing up for yourself and enduring, even when the body is working against you or it feels that way, is really important for morale. Living with a condition like POTS can be incredibly tough, not just on your body, but on your emotions, your confidence, and your sense of self. When life starts to revolve around symptoms, it's easy to feel isolated or misunderstood. You might find yourself putting on a brave face, saying that you're fine when you're really not, or missing the version of yourself that you used to be. As a person-centered counsellor, my role is never going to be to tell you what to do or to fix yourself. It's to offer you a safe, understanding place where you can explore this experience and what it truly means for you. Together, we can work gently through the feelings that come with living in a body that doesn't always really want to cooperate with you. The frustration, the guilt, the boredom, the fear, and to find ways to reconnect with your strength, self-compassion, and hope in the middle of that. If you're living with POTS or another chronic illness and need someone to really listen to you and walk alongside you, well, I'd be honoured to be able to support you on that journey. I do understand, however, that not everyone is ready even to consider counselling. And I do not want those people to walk away feeling that there's no one that they can go to help them. So now we're going to spend a little bit of time together just spotlighting some different charities where you can get some help if you're living with dysautonomia. The accent may have already given it away, but please bear in mind that I live in the UK, so my signposting always reflects this. To begin with, there's POTS UK. They are the leading UK charity for POTS and dysautonomia awareness. They offer a lot of different services, including detailed guides for patients and for healthcare professionals to support their understanding, symptom management tips, printable resources for school, work, and for healthcare visits, and finally, very important, a list of clinicians familiar with POTS across the UK. The Dysautonomia Project is a non-profit organisation who are dedicated to educating patients, healthcare providers and communities about dysautonomia, who I really do want to highlight as well. They focus on teaching people about dysautonomia as a key part of helping those who are affected. They work with doctors, patients and community members to create resources that make it easier to understand and manage all of these conditions. Their work includes easy to understand guides, workshops and support networks that aim to help both patients and healthcare professionals to feel more confident and more informed about dysautonomia. Another organisation I want to talk about is STARS, Syncope Trust and Reflex Anoxic Seizures. I hate that word, I could never pronounce it. They provide information and patient stories about fainting and autonomic conditions, including POTS and neurally mediated syncope. And finally, it would be remiss not to talk about the Dysautonomia International organisation. They are based in the United States, and although that is the case, their educational resources and research updates are really relevant worldwide. The most important thing that I want to emphasise in sharing these organisations and ways that you can get help is that help does exist. I know how isolating, scary and challenging it can be to live with this and other conditions. That's why I'm starting the Chronic Health Club, and the waiting list to join that organisation is now open. If you want to learn more about it, you can visit my website, which you can find by going to my profile. The goal of the Chronic Health Club is to create an online and easily accessible space where we can all join together to talk with others who understand what it really feels like to live with disability and illness, to help with making friends, and to offer support for mental health in the disabled community. I do hope that you can join us. If you're still with me, thank you. I really appreciate you sticking it out to the end. I know that these videos are long, and that's because mental health is a nuanced topic, and we lose a lot of important meaning if we condense stuff down too small. So if you found this video interesting or helpful, you can like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications to make sure that you don't miss any more. We cover many aspects of chronic illness, disability, neurodivergence and mental health on this channel, and we upload really very regularly. You can also check down in the description if you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one basis around living with dysautonomia or disability, as I do offer private counselling sessions. Thank you so much for watching and take really good care.